Hello and welcome to Qsports. I'm Mamudu Gajaga. Thank you for joining us. Coming up tonight, the Gambia national team, the Scorpions, played in 2 international friendlies, 1 more to go, but the results are not convincing at all. The first one against the Morocco reserve side, they lost by 7 goals to 2. Surprising result, of course. And in their second match against Sierra Leone, which is also a team that has qualified for the Africa Cup of Nations, they lost by 2 goals to 1. What is really wrong with the Scorpions? An assessment about their match with former Gambia international Abdul Jamie, that is T-Boy in Finland, who is now into coaching. We'll also be talking about the Gambia women's under-20 team, who, despite all odds, have overturned a 1-0 deficit when they played against Burkina Faso just about 2 weeks ago at the Independence Stadium. They lost by 1-0. And guess what? In the return leg, they overturned everything completely, and we'll bring you updates of that. And finally, we will be talking about a football final in Keneba, Julafar football, and the 2 teams ended in a ensuing penalty shootouts. We'll bring you all the highlights of that as well on Qsports. Welcome and thank you if you're just joining us. And first, as we said, we're going to talk about the Gambia national team. We will do an assessment of their first international friendly match that they played against the Morocco reserve side, where they lost heavily by 7 goals to 2. What really went wrong? And as well as their game against Sierra Leone, we will also be looking at their game with South Sudan on Tuesday. And joining me in the studio is Abdul Jamie, T-Boy, former national team player. He played in the defense and at the same time even captained the Scorpions. Abdul Jamie, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Gajaga. It's a pleasure being here.
Let's talk about the Gambia national team, the Scorpions. You played for them as a defender. You even captained them on some occasions. You've watched them play against the Morocco reserve side in their first international friendly after the previous one was cancelled due to financial constraints, according to the Ministry of Youth and Sports. When you watch them lose to the Morocco reserve side by 7 goals to 2, what comes to your mind?
Actually, it was like it was a learning curve for both of we the spectators, fans, and even the players as well, because since when we qualified, hopes were very high. So I think these kind of results are sometimes good also for a football club, a football team, at least to be prepared mentally what is coming ahead. Because I
Yes.
think that was a surprising result even from them as well.
Yes, you currently are studying to become a professional football coach. What are some of your assessments, the goals that they concede? I've seen people criticizing the goalkeeper, that he's a first-timer in the national team, and some players are also new to be in the national team. They kind of didn't gel together. What's your own assessment to the defeat?
Actually, first of all, as a coach, we don't normally judge players. We don't normally judge players, but I will try to be honest here. I think the first what I observe is like we agreed as coaches that most of the time international games it's very difficult for coaches due to sometimes the late arrival of players. And I think in this case, it might play some part there because if you can see some of the players came, I think the day before.
As a team that qualifies for the Africa Cup of Nations for the first time, that is Gambia, in their preparation, losing by this margin of goals against a team that they are expected to beat, of course. If it is the Morocco senior national team, even that one, 7-2 would be a huge result to consume. But playing against the Morocco B side, no matter their quality is, but psychologically, what would it do to the confidence of the players? Because again, we will be talking about the second game, but they lost again against Sierra Leone 2-1.
Yeah, but that's true. Yeah, people might find it strange. Likewise me also. But you can see the second game, they felt the defeat. They felt it very bad because you can see the start of the second game. I think you can see the reaction of they came reactively to do something positive. But the way they reacted was that was, I would say, they were impatient a little bit. They could have been a little bit patient because they just want to react it and rectify themselves quicker than sooner than later. But that went badly on them as well because they were nervous. Everyone was going freely, so they didn't. They were not thinking about when the transition after losing the ball, what happened. So they were not. They controlled the game, but there were a lot of mistakes, a lot of gaps in the midfield. So there you can see there were some loopholes in the how they were defending after losing the ball.
90% of the matches that we played in the qualifiers, we are outnumbered in terms of possession. We are dominated in terms of possession in even the last game that we played against Angola. Yes, all that is important is the 3 points, and we got that when Asensio scored that goal in the second half, and we are through to the Africa Cup of Nations for the first time. But we usually lose possession, and sometimes it is down to players playing the ball in the opponent's half and not specifically targeting their teammate. So it lands there, and then the opponent wins the ball and started the attack again. So you are at the mercy of defending again for the every now and then. I don't know if that's a tactic that the coach can improve on, because if you hold the ball more, you are likely to be an attacking threat than your opponent. Maybe as a technician, you can put me through here.
I think currently with the team we have technically I will think we have a very good solid individual players in the team. So it's a matter of the coach to put everything together. Looking at the team players we have now, I don't think okay, we are underdogs going to the group stage, but I think we have something to prove as well too. It's a matter of now is for the coach to think about which players will gel with and which players. So it's a matter of the tactic now. You have to work on that. But like the offensive start also, like the last game, what I've seen, it's sometimes when we are attacking, the discipline where we are not disciplined when attacking because we are thinking of going forward without defending also. That also is bad as a team as well because our transition was very poor when we after losing the ball. So you want to defend, you want to attack also, but in football also you have to think of defending as well. So, but there are a lot of potentials in the team right now. So I think for sure the coach have to think about something positive also. And going to the tournament also, you need to target the games you want to win or whereby you think you can get points. And for instance, where you think you cannot take a maximum point, then you can think about playing defensive. But that for the technicians also to think about which games did they think they can win or which game did they think at least can negotiate a point there. So that will be for the technicians to arrange those things or to discuss about those things.
Looking back in this training camp, prior to the training camp, there were issues, of course, the money issue, the 11 million that was promised to the players, and a letter, some players, I would have to say, maybe wanted the money, and then the Minister of Sports says the money was not lying in the bank there waiting for anybody. Of course, when the players say they don't need the money at the time, they had to put the money into other projects without specifically naming what sort of projects they are. Could that be something that gets into the head of the players? We've seen, for instance, Ghana. We've also seen Nigeria prior to their games at the World Cup. There would be row over bonuses. There would be row over, Nigeria at some point, in fact, says the national team players wouldn't board a small plane. They need a jumbo jet, or they need at least an Airbus to travel to a particular World Cup. And Ghana 2014, money had to be literally flown in a plane, $3 million, all the way to the World Cup venue so that row over bonuses could be settled. Could money be a factor maybe going into the head of the players?
Actually, at that the money issues, I don't have a clue about those things. I just hear it from now from media few weeks ago. But I think okay, for the money issue, I don't want to be talking that much because the players are already in camp and they accepted to be there, so they know what is the situation there. So, but what I will advise maybe the minister or any other the government official, I think it's also positive. It's also good to at least motivate the players what they own, what they at least to be ready to prepare themselves before the tournament. If they have the money to give them, it's good to give them as well. But for the players, what I will advise them, for me personally, even when I was playing for the national team, if I don't, nobody can force me what I don't want to do or what I don't want to accept. So it's up to them to at least know what is best for them. But at this moment, we don't need at least they don't need any distraction ahead of the competition. The focus should be more on playing rather than this money issue. I think whatever the case, the government should help, or if at all, the federation can at least talk with the government to at least help them with those money. It will be helpful for them as well.
If
But
the
psychologically, I don't think it's affecting the players because hence you are in the camp, you are already ready to come and play for the country.
And finally, any sort of advice to maybe the players? Some of them, of course, even before you retire, you played with them, even if they are coming into the national team for the first time. Let's say, for instance, Omar Koli, the vice captain, Asan Cisse, when almost you are on the verge of retiring, and once in a while he played against or played with you in the national team, and some other few players. What would be your advice to these players?
Yeah, okay. My advice will be like the two games I watched, I was a little bit not embarrassed, but I was shocked sometimes what I have seen in that pitch. I think the players were over the board. They were so emotional that game. I think they should try to control their emotion very much because I wasn't happy with some of the incident the players are retaliating too much in the pitch. Going to the tournament, I think those kind of things will happen along the way. So they should try to control their emotion. Especially Omar is not a small player now in that team. He's been in the national team for long. So I think he should be able to control his emotion, at least guide the younger ones there rather than at least losing their nerves. I think that's last two games, especially the young guy that came in now. What is his name? Dabo.
Dembo Dabo, yes.
He Dembo, he need to be real. He need to get used to the African football because you have to be realistic. The coach referees are not good in Africa, so it's good to at least control the emotion. I think that part I will just advise them to be more to be humble in the pitch. That is the most important thing, and discipline. I think they have the talent, so it's a matter of to be at least more humble and give their best in whatever they are doing.
Well, Abdul Jamie, I wouldn't keep you for long, and I know, as a coach, they don't usually, that's not their trade. Maybe like for we the journalists to look at the other coach and say this is not okay, that is not okay, well, which I understand very well. And he's a former player, retired not just long ago, and then he would not pinpoint to certain particular players and say this player didn't perform well. We understand all of that. And thank you very much for your time. We'll be doing more of this prior to AFCON. You've been part of the Gambia national team over a decade, like I said before. And your experience and expertise, of course, is needed. And we will be counting on you to talk about certain things that will be able to help improve the team. Thank you for your time.
Thanks to you. It's a pleasure being here. Thank you very much.
That's Abdul Jamie, or if you like, call him T-Boy, former national team player for the Scorpions. He was a defender, and sometimes he captains the national team. Very well experienced. Now into coaching. He's trying very hard to become a professional coach, get his UEFA A license badge and all of that, and we wish him all the best of luck. We are going to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll be talking about women's football, because in the other end, the Gambia women's under-20 team have defied all odds and produced a shocking result. They overturned the 1-0 deficit they suffered against Burkina Faso here at the Independence Stadium away, and the match penalty shootout decided. We'll bring you that, and also a football final in Kiang Keneba, the Julafar football final. we'll be talking about as well on Qsports. Now, let's talk about women's football because the Gambia Under-20 women's national team playing in the qualifiers for the FIFA Under-20 Women's World Cup got a massive boost. After losing to Burkina Faso by a 0-0 at the Independence Stadium 2 weeks ago, they went to Burkina Faso. Precisely, the match was played in Benin and they overturned the result. Woode Colley scored the only goal of the game, 1-1 the aggregate. Now, in the penalty shootout, the Gambia women's under-20 team sailed through, winning 4-3 on penalties. Now, let's get the details in this report. Celebrating victory after overturning the result of their home defeat to Burkina Faso, the Gambia women's under-20 team leveled the aggregate scores with Woode Colley's lone goal. With matters all square at 1-1 at the end of the game, penalties were needed to decide the tie, with Gambia going through after a 4-3 victory on spot kicks. Reacting to the victory, Fode Ba, coach of the women's under-20 team, praised his team for their bravery in the match. He told GFF Media the girls gave their best.
Guys really make me proud. They've played very well. A very difficult game, a very good side, very good Burkina side. I think I've said it back home. Sometimes you lose games not because you didn't perform. You performed extremely well back home. Coming here to the second leg, we played extremely well.
The Gambia Under-20 women's team now know their opponents in the next round of qualifying. They will face Morocco over 2 legs. The Moroccans eliminated Benin 4-3 on aggregate. 2 teams from Africa will qualify for the finals. The FIFA Under-20 Women's World Cup will see 16 nations compete against each other for the prize at what will be the 5th edition of the tournament. The tournament, which was originally planned for 2020 and intended to have Panama as co-host, had to be postponed due to the COVID pandemic. Costa Rica were then named sole host of the rescheduled Global Showpiece, which will run from the 10th to the 28th of August 2022. The competition has seen 4 previous champions, namely the USA, Germany, Japan, and Korea DPR. Finally, let's talk about some Nawetan football in Kiang Keneba to be precise. Well, it's the Julafav Football Committee that organized this competition, and very interesting. After a pulsating 90 minutes, the game ended 0-0, and in the ensuing penalty shootouts, these were some of the scenes. Very interesting. You will also hear some of the dignitaries who attended the final. You will hear from a coach, you will hear from a player, and as well as the Minister of Youth and Sports, Bakari Baji, who was there. An exciting football final that showed 2 teams who are very competitive. Despite both sides creating chances, neither could break the deadlock. The regulation time ended 0-0 between Mankabantang FC and Karantaba United in the Kiang District Football Competition organized by the Julafa Football Association. Penalty shootouts separated the 2 teams, but with great enthusiasm and technique in the sport kicks, which dragged on, and eventually Karantaba United won the penalty shootouts and lifted the trophy for the first time. Their team captain, Yusuf Akambi, was elated.
No, be content balling. Sati bela contanda. Kadu meta nyini kane. Sati ne man kopo win nara nim tara in district tournament. So Kamil be play okake intalti.
We've been looking forward to this opportunity for a very long time as a community. Now we are even more of a bigger community after winning the trophy. We've achieved something we never had before. Everyone is happy at the village right now.
We've seen a lot of talent here, and we see a very good community organization. And this is what we encourage, communities to come together, organize Nawetans and organize them in a proper way and in the way that it has happened today. The final went very well, and there was a display of talent, but also the organizational part of it was great. Nothing has happened. There was unity, and the players showed absolute discipline in the way they were playing. And the winners, of course, Karantaba, we congratulate them for the success.
Football is a win and loss, so we accept as a good fate because this is a football. Killing a win, kill a lose. So anything happen after that, you can understand. After Mekato Bekala, Purna Timo, Ngampare next tournament, Purun the same thing. Na opponent de Meng Soto, Mfadasa Yon Samana Nasato.
Actually, it means a lot to me as far as this tournament has been started since 2018. And then in most cases, year before last, we went up to semi-final and then we couldn't make it to the final. And then last year too, it was due to the COVID-19, the tournament doesn't take place. And then actually it means a lot to me. And then I have to extend my sincere greetings and appreciation to my entire committee as well. Because they also tried a lot. Without them, I couldn't be able to come this way. So definitely it means a lot to me and that of the community at large.
This tournament, we started it in 2019. The association was formed in 2018 because November we realized that a lot of tournaments have been played here but they cannot complete. So we decided to form our own association that will be responsible for all the sporting activities in Julafar. So the first tournament we played it in 2019. And last year, 2020, we should play it, but unfortunately, because of Corona, we could not play. So this is the second edition of Julafar Youth and Sport Association. We have 21 communities under us, but right now as you know, some communities are not that much. They don't have the capacity to form one team, so they have to join together. Yeah.
With that, we say thank you very much for watching Q Sports and keep on sporting. Until we come your way next week, have a pleasant night and bye.